Okay, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to our amazing programming course. So in this video we are going to talk about some new aspect that you are going to love. I hope so. So in C language there is a way to create some shortcut or some nicknames for different types of definitions. So for example, we've talked about different grades questions, and we've used to create different grades variables, right? So we used to create int grade 1, int grade 2, or even we used to create an array of integers, just like int grades with 5 elements inside of it. Now, there may be cases when we need to specify, even for some simplicity, the name of the course, okay? The name of the course that you have these grades. So grade 1 will be for physics, and grade 2 will be for math, and so on, okay? So you need to specify the name. It's not sufficient just to use grade 1, grade 2, because we do not know what do we refer to. And one way to accomplish this task is to create the variables with the names of the course just like that. Okay, so int grade underscore math, int grade underscore physics, and this way you created two boxes, okay? Variable 1, variable 2, the name of the first variable and the name of the second variable. And while that's good, it will work, okay? So what is Typedef? I think better let's start with a simple example that will demonstrate us how it works. So Typedef int grade, okay? So basically we have the first time we see this Typedef guy, then we specify int and grade, okay? And how basically it works? We simply say that in every line that we are going to use from now on, in every line that we will use the word grade with capital G-R-A-D-E, okay, it will be equivalent to as we've used this integer. So instead of using int, we will be able to use grade. So for example, if we use grade math and grade physics, we will create two variables. The first one, its name will be math, and the second variable is going to be called physics. So these two lines of code, okay, it will also be possible to do it in just one line. They are equivalent, okay, they are basically the same as these two lines, okay? And this grade that we can see here is actually an integer, just it has some camouflage, or I don't know how to say it. It's just instead of this grade, we know that after we wrote down this little line here, Typedef int grade, we said that every time after this line that we are going to use grade, okay, just like that, it will be equivalent as we've used here an integer. And basically you may be asking yourself as why do we even need it, okay? And to tell you the truth, okay, there are some pros and some cons even at this level of programming to use the Typedef definition, and I think that with a couple of examples it will become much more clear to us as to how and why exactly we want to use them. But I see here that I just moved on, and I want to let you know just a quick explanation of why it can be useful. It is very useful even at this level of programming. So suppose you're writing a program, okay, so it will be much easier and much more readable even for you as a programmer to understand what are you meaning by that, like int grade math, okay? And if instead of that you would not have used int grade math, okay, because it's just a long variable name and it may even also get much longer, grade, history, or something like that. It may be very long, okay, because you want, it is a descriptive variable, but I'm not sure that you should use such long variable names in such a case, so it will be very useful for you to take a look, okay, and to understand when you're reading the code that this math variable, okay, math variable is of type grade, okay, and not only that it's of type grade, it's also, you know, that it should represent a grade, okay, and you have one line when you see these equivalents if it's either int, float, and so on. So that's one usage, one pro inside for using Typedef at this level. And if we will have time, I will give you also a couple of other explanations, but I think for now it's fine enough, because we are not going to learn everything in details in this section. We want to move on with our structures. So basically, why am I showing you this just now? Okay, well, the reason is very simple. I think that this type definition, okay, that's what happens behind the scenes, the meaning, is of great usage in the structures section that we currently study. Okay, so you remember we had this structure template like struct date, int day, int month, int year, and whenever we wanted to create a variable of this date type, you always needed to write this struct day beforehand. So it was something like that. Where it is? No, it's not here. So there was something we had to write to create the variable. Previously it was like struct, okay, so struct date, okay, struct date, we specified struct date, and then we specified, for example, in this case it was my date 1, okay, so that's how we created this variable of type struct date. And I think it will be much easier and much nicer if instead of using this long struct date every time you would want to create a date variable, a struct date variable, instead of that you will just simply write something like that: date my date 1, date my date 2. Okay, I think it will be much easier, much more readable, and much nicer for you as a future programmer to have. So what you have to do for that is simply to use the Typedef. Okay, let's just remove it. Oh, where it is? Where is the eraser? Okay, so now what we are going to use is, instead of creating our, let's use the blue color. Where it is? The blue one. Okay, nice. So instead of using, creating the template in this way, struct date, we are going to create it a little bit differently. So this section, okay, you can see it right here, right? It's the same as it was here, okay? So that's the same, it's the same. What we simply add here is the typedef keyword, the type definition, and the new name, kind of the new name we are giving to this type definition. So now we know that everywhere in our code, everywhere that we are going to use date, okay, the keyword date, it will be equivalent as we've used struct date, just like you've seen here. Okay, so that's much shorter, much cleaner, and it will give you much more readability. Okay, so I hope that's clear to you guys. And now let's take a look at a quick example of how we can work with structures. Okay, so first of all, let's create our print date function. Okay, and this function is very simple. The type of the function, okay, we know how it works. The name of the function, nothing new, print date. And this date, okay, it's part of the name of the function. It does not have anything to do with the function, with the structure type, okay, that's just part of the function name. And then we know that the function receives one value, and this value is called, variable is called dt, and it's of type date, of type struct date. All right, and all what this function does is simply to print out the values, all of the fields of this dt variable. So year equals to %d, month equal to %d, day equals to %d, and there you go, my date 1 dot year. Okay, dot is how you access a field in a given structure variable. Okay, so here I see we have a little bit of mistake. It's instead of myDate1, the name of the variable here is dt. Okay, so no worries about it, guys. That's something that I wanted to mention in another example where I showed where was the compilation problem, because it didn't find the myDate1, and I wanted to ask the students of why didn't it work. So I think here it's pretty good sense to make sure that you understand it. So instead of myDate1, it would not, this function wouldn't work because myDate1 is not recognized in this scope, right? I mean, it makes sense because what is myDate1? So we have here the variable dt. So here is dt.year, dt.month, and dt.day. So simple printf line that receives one argument of a date structure type, and this variable is called dt, and you simply print all the fields of this variable. Pretty awesome, guys. And now let's take a look at how we also can create a function that will read inputs from the user, okay, create a variable of this date type, and also return this new variable structure that was created. So it goes like this, okay? So the function name input date, it receives nothing, okay? And its type, its return type is a date. So it was previously, we used integer, floating point, characters, and now what we use is a new structure, a new type that is called date. And all we do in this function is simply to create a new variable. So in this line, we created a new variable called dt, and it's of type date. It doesn't have anything, okay? The 3 here will be explained right away. In this line, it does not have anything, okay? All of its fields are uninitialized. And what we are going to do is to print to the screen, enter day, okay? From 1 to 31, for example. And the user is going to hit enter to write down 3, hit enter, and then we are going to use the scanf function to read this value using %d, since we know it's an integer, and to store it inside of dt point day, okay? So in this field we will have this 3 value from the screen. Amazing! So you see, guys, how we are doing? We created a new variable of this new structure type. We accessed one of its fields and used the scanf function to read the value from the user, from the console, for example, and to store it inside of this field. So then we have another enter month, the same way, reading the value from the user and putting it inside of the month field. Finally, what we have is the year, okay, so let's say 2021, and reading the value percentage ampersand dt.year. So dt is the variable, year is the field, storing it inside of this field. Okay, and once we are done, okay, we can see that we have here, this is our new variable, and it's of a new type, a new structure type. All of its fields are okay and are ready to go. And our function simply is in charge of creating this variable, reading the values from the user, okay, and returning a copy of this structure we've just created. So you simply return dt, and you know that dt is of type date, and you make sure that it's of type date and that the signature corresponds to this type. Okay, guys, so you can see here all these aspects. Also, when you're writing a program, make sure that whatever you return, you make sure that there is a correspondence in the type of the return as well as the value that you've created. So dt is of type date, and that's why the return type is also of type date. We specify that. Here we have also, this is the previous thing that we spoke of. It's not myDate1, okay, it's simply dt. It's the same, it's just the name of the variable. It was used as part of additional explanation in one of different videos. I don't think that I've added it here because it's kind of for another topic. So there you go, guys. What we have created here is 2 functions. One function that simply gets all the values for a date variable and returns it, and one function that receives a date variable and prints it to the screen, prints all of its fields. So that's amazing, guys. Thank you for your attention. Keep on practicing and keep on creating new variables with these little new nice names, nicknames, shortcuts using these Typedef. Give it a shot on your own. Try it, run some code, make sure that you understand everything. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the frequently asked questions. Maybe somebody has already answered it. So until next time, I'll see you then.